If anything, it does seem to me that science can either take, the farthest science can take you is to, in the direction of atheism.
Well, tell me, I say, what do you do science with? And I point up here to make it fairly obvious. Give me a short history of the brain. Oh, they say that's relatively easy because the brain is the end product of a mindless, unguided process. And I look at them and I sometimes smile and I say, and do you trust it?
If anything, it does seem to me that science can either take, the farthest science can take you is to, in the direction of atheism, is I don't know. In other words, pure science can only take you to agnosticism. It can never take you to atheism.
Funny enough, I agree. But the next step should be to ask, can pure material processes explain consciousness?
It's not possible.
I think that's correct. The very interesting thing, you framed the question, and I ought to attempt to answer it. Why do I think that science can bury atheism? It's because science can be done. That may seem a very simple statement to you, but it is an amazing thing. How is it that a mathematician thinking in her head in here and comes up with equations and they appear to apply to the universe out there, how does that work? Now, Eugen Wigner won the Nobel Prize for Physics, and he talks about the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics. We don't deserve it, it's a miracle. Well, he's wrong. It's only unreasonable if you start by believing atheism. But if you start by believing that there's a rational intelligence behind the universe, then doing science is reasonable. What am I saying? I'm saying that the Christian has a rationale for doing science.
I agree with Professor Lennox here. The formulation of mathematics cannot be the product of pure coincidence. Even the mind of a mathematician relies on presuppositions that are themselves not random. And while one may argue that mathematical discoveries are derived from prior knowledge, that still does not explain where the initial inspiration came from, the spark that led someone to ask the first question.
Science, which brings me back to the rise of science. But let me come now to the atheist position, and I am fortunate to have many atheist friends. And I raise these questions with them. And they sometimes say to me, why are you not an atheist? And they expect me to say, because I'm a Christian. I sometimes do say that because it's part of the reason. But if they're scientists, I say, because I'm a scientist. If you'll allow a mathematician to be a scientist. And they say, how is that possible? Well, tell me, I say, what do you do science with? And I point up here to make it fairly obvious. And most of them say, well, I do it with my, and they're about to say mind when they realize it's not politically correct to believe in the mind. There's only the brain. That is a common view. You are your brain. So I let that sit for a minute. I say, okay, you do science with your brain. Tell me about your brain with which you do science. What do you really believe about it? Give me a short history of the brain. Oh, they say that's relatively easy because the brain is the end product of a mindless, unguided process. And I look at them and I sometimes smile and I say, and do you trust it? Be honest with me. If you knew that the computer you use every day in your lab was the end product of a mindless, unguided process, would you trust it? And I always force an answer. And I've asked dozens of world-famous scientists, and every single one of them has said no. I see you have a problem then.
There you have it. Atheism does not answer the pressing questions. It just leads to meaninglessness and irrational claims.